Dump point safety. Stockpiles and waste piles. Using trucks to dispose of waste material and build stockpiles are important parts of many mining operations. But accidents can occur during these activities if adequate safety precautions are not taken. Historically, for example, a significant percentage of surface haulage fatalities have involved trucks going over the edge of a pile. This video will illustrate the most common hazards at dumps and piles and will demonstrate recommended safety practices. Safety problems can arise when trucks back up and dump material at or over the edge of a pile. A truck may go over the pile because of brake failure, a misjudgment of the edge, or use of an unsafe practice, such as impacting the berm or attempting to dump where there is little or no berm. A high percentage of these accidents appear to occur due to a collapse of the edge of the pile under the weight of the truck. Note that a loaded haul truck like this one will have 2/3 of its weight on the rear axle. This is a significant load that the edge of the pile must support. Section 9304 of Parts 56 and 57 of the Code of Federal Regulations requires that where there is evidence that the ground at a dumping location may fail to support the equipment, loads shall be dumped a safe distance back from the edge. So how do you know if a dump area will support your truck? When dumping near the edge of a pile, there are 3 conditions that you need to be especially aware of and avoid. The first condition is dumping where there are tension cracks on the pile. A cracked or settled area near the edge of a pile is a warning sign of an unstable condition. It indicates that the slope material has moved. If the slope material is having trouble holding up its own weight, you don't want to rely on it to support the additional weight of your truck. So, never use a dump area where there are cracks. The additional truck weight may cause the edge of the pile to collapse. And if the edge of the pile gives way, your truck goes over. The second potentially dangerous condition is dumping where the berm is inadequate. At a dump point, a berm serves 3 functions. First, it shows where the edge of the pile is located. Second, it keeps the heavy weight of the truck back from the edge of the slope by a distance of at least the berm width. And third, in the event of an emergency or a misjudgment, the berm could help keep the vehicle from going over the dump point. To serve these functions, berms must be at least mid-axle height of the largest piece of equipment that will use the dump area. A berm that is too small will allow the truck to come closer to the edge of the slope, possibly close enough to cause the edge to give way. And a small berm will offer little resistance to a vehicle going over the edge. So, never dump near the edge of a pile unless an adequate berm is in place. The third dangerous condition is dumping above an area where the material has been loaded out from the pile, making the side of the pile steeper than the material's normal angle of repose. When material is loaded out from the toe of a pile, the slope is steepened. Removal of the material weakens the slope and may undercut the berm. In this condition, the edge of the pile is less stable and may not be capable of supporting both its own weight and the additional weight of the truck. Trucks should be prohibited from dumping material near the edge of a pile that has been loaded out and over-steepened. This has been identified as a common factor in many of the accidents that have occurred. So, the first defense against dump point accidents is to recognize the 3 danger signs and not attempt to dump where any of these conditions exist. This points out the importance of good examinations of dump point conditions. As indicated in Section 9304 of Parts 56 and 57 of the Code of Federal Regulations, prior to the start of dumping operations, and as ground conditions warrant, mine personnel must inspect the dump area for any indications that the dump point may not support the equipment. Note that once a truck is backing up to dump, the driver cannot necessarily determine whether the dump area is still safe. There could be cracks that are not easily seen from the truck. and while backing to dump, the driver can't tell whether the pile has been oversteepened or the berm undercut. For these reasons, you should examine the condition of the dump area before backing to dump. A good practice is to routinely observe the dump point on your approach, staying 1 truck length back from the edge. For truck-built stockpiles, the front-end loader operators, who load material from the pile, are often in the best position to know the condition of the dump area. They should notify truck drivers of dangerous conditions at the dump point and block access to such areas. Dumping material on a stockpile and reclaiming material from the toe of the pile need to be coordinated so that these two activities are not taking place in the same area. One way to prevent this hazard is for the front-end loader operator to first use enough loaded-out material to block the access ramp to the pile. This way, truck drivers will not be exposed to dumping near an oversteepened slope. Using a truck spotter is also an effective way to ensure that a driver is aware of any hazardous dump point conditions. So what do you do if a dump area has cracks, an inadequate berm, or has been loaded out? If there is any question as to the safety of the dump point, the recommended practice is to dump back from the edge of the pile. Then push the material over the edge, preferably with a track-mounted piece of equipment. A good safety rule is to dump 1 truck length back from a crack or a questionable edge area. Other options would be